Hey, everybody, I'm David Bloom, a co-founder of Next TMT, and this here podcast, Next TMT Talks with Daniel Frankel, talking all things technology, media, and telecom. And there's still plenty to talk about even here at the very butt end of 2025. This will be our last podcast of this vexatious year as we take a little break between the holidays to recharge and be ready for you guys next year. And I can't wait to do that. But I'm really looking forward to the not doing things next week and, I don't know, playing games or whatever. This is an interesting time, Daniel. I will just run through so people know what to look forward to. The remarkably obsequious Brendan Carr decides, absent actual legislation, that the FCC over which he presides isn't really that independent after all. Who is Company C, the anonymous company named in Warner Brothers Discovery's rejection of Paramount Skydance's takeover bid? Company C thinks Discovery Global's worth $25 billion. I want to know who their street pharmacist is. EW Scripps finds Sinclair's $4 billion bid for its TV stations not nearly rich nor non-right-wing enough for its tastes. Microsoft's AI Copilot may have gotten better in the past 11 months, but you can't tell that to some early adopters. Dan's new fave, Pluribus, the inscrutable new series from Vince Gilligan on Apple TV, is getting a much warmer reception from critics and fans than lead character Carol may have been offered to any of the happy people in her new world. While everyone's cavelling over Netflix, Omdia again suggests that Hollywood's attention might also be devoted to YouTube as it gets bigger and bigger in all kinds of new ways. The third Avatar will be big, but maybe not quite as big as its predecessors, and Jim Cameron might be ready to move on to new worlds. And finally, we'll have a few notes about this weekend's Saturday Night Live, thanks to Netflix, Tom Steyer, and also Bowen Yang. With that, Dan, let's dive in. I guess to start, why don't we jump into your FCC piece? I guess Brendan Carr has decided they don't have any power anyway. They're just serving at Trump's mercy.
Well, they appeared before the Senate this week, along with his FCC commissioners, and was grilled. Ted Cruz found a lot in common ground, but even Ted Cruz was pushing back. You can't threaten, we can do this the easy way, the hard way, like he did with ABC and the Jimmy Kimmel kerfuffle a few months back. That was the underlying reason for the sit down. I mean, that was kind of a bridge too far. It was
a threat. Technically, it was a threat too far. And it was like, you can't be doing that stuff.
Right.
That's wildly inappropriate for the regulatory authority of the federal government. That's way beyond the pale.
New Mexico Democrat Ben Ray Lujan gets a hold of him. Lujan. Okay. New Mexico Democrat Senator Ben Ray Lujan gets a hold of him and says, hey, Brendan, your own website says that you're an independent agency under oversight by Congress. And to which Carr says, possibly it's lying. Possibly the website's lying. The FCC is not an independent agency. That's a shocking quote. That's a shocking declaration. In his
from
mind,
the chairman. I mean, That's the amazing thing, right? It's not just the shocking declaration, but from the chairman. It's one thing for
the Supreme Court is about to rule that Trump's firing of Rebecca Kelly Slaughter a few months back, she was an FTC Democratic commissioner. He fired on ideological reasons, not with cause. And they're about to sign off on that. That's the widely held assumption. And Carr, it's hard to argue with him. If he can be removed at the president's wishes for any reason at all, or no reason, in his words, then the FCC belongs to the president, which is kind of a sea change. Anyway, he went back after the meeting and erased from the website all the declarations of the FCC being independent, which was kind of...
I'm sure he went, oh my God, we have a website? What is this? Who knew the FCC has a website? This is crazy.
So this is an influential guy who sort of created a major sea change. That's a major, I'm not beholden to Congress anymore. I choose the president. It's
probably... He'd already done that. Now he may get some Supreme Court support for that. Seems like a mistake from my point of view, and it's interesting that this would go that way. That being said, let's move along. We talked a lot in our new midweek pod for Media Play News about some of the stuff, the Mean Girl letter, as I worded it in our newsletter this week, that Warner Brothers Discovery filed with the SEC about why they didn't like the pitch, the bid by Paramount Skydance, which even though it's allegedly worth more money. One of the things they talked about that I don't think we really got into then, and I want to get into a little bit now with you, it mentions a bid heretofore unreleased from some company saying, we'll give you 25 billion for Discovery Global Networks, orphan child about to be spun out under the Netflix purchase price,
Yeah.
and something under Paramount Skydance. I mean, it's like, I don't know what David Ellison's going to do, but though I do think, and I will say this, I think they need it because they need the cash these things throw off, however much they throw off, for as long as they can. They're going to turn them into zombie channels, milk them for all they can and for the retrans fees. But Company C said, no, it's worth 25 billion, which is oddly enough about the difference in value between the 83 billion, including debt, is the valuation all in of Netflix's bid versus the 108 billion by Paramount Skydance. Look at that. But Paramount Skydance basically says it's only worth like $1 billion. It's like worth nothing.
Yeah.
Even though it throws off all this cash that they're
It's
not
not
getting
worth
from
nothing.
anything
I
else.
think I forgot where I saw it. Maybe it was in that letter. They detail everything in the portfolio. It's rich in international channels and
Yeah.
uh,
Lots of
it's
sports stuff. A lot of sports rights. The internet. They've got Eurosport has all the Olympic rights. They've
right.
got yesterday they had a couple of the college football playoff first round games on HBO Max. Not a place I'm used to looking. They've got some other stuff sprinkled in 200 countries. So it's like, well, it's something, right?
Between 1 and 25, it's closer to 25. I don't know if it's worth that much.
Somewhere between 1 and 25. I mean, 25 is what somebody allegedly made a bid for. Now the question is, say it's 20 billion, 18 billion. That's not nothing. And Warner Brothers shareholders, if it got spun out under the Netflix deal, would have this second sale that they would also, because they would get that piece, they would keep that piece. It gets spun out, they would get money for that, and then they would get money for Netflix for the studio, this the production facilities, the library, and HBO Max. So that's two paydays that are pretty big. But who do you think Company C is? Any wild speculation?
I mean, they were talking about foreign companies getting involved. I have no idea.
I'm guessing private equity.
Why would they come in as Company C? I guess if you're
Well, because Company C just wants to take it and milk it, just like they did with DirecTV, right? So if you're Apollo, I know that Apollo's already in with Paramount Skydance, but if you're an Apollo-like company, you might look at what they're doing and say, if we just scoop off this part, milk it for however long we need to milk it, and then just like DirecTV is being milked, right, as it continues to fade.
What staggered me about that letter was the amount of debt that company would be in. Paramount Sky and Warner Brothers Discovery. 6 times 2026 estimated EBITDA?
Actually, almost 7. I think it's 6.8. 6.8 times EBITDA for 2026. 6.8 times 90, I think it was $92 billion in debt.
Incredible.
And it's already Paramount Sky, they point out, the ratings are like BB plus or BBA plus, I think, on one rating service. But basically just on the little teetering edge of junk, or what they would call high interest debt. So that gets really expensive fast. That's the real problem with if you go into the non-premium bond universe, your interest rates go way up. So that gets expensive fast. So that's of interest. And
foreign investors, lots of debt. It just feels like they made the right decision. I hope it sticks.
It certainly paints a much more complicated picture of what is supposed to, Jerry Cardinale got on with Matt Bellany and said, ours is categorically the better bid, and it's all fake. It's actually, what do you call it? False characterizations, which is Jerry Cardinale's very august way of saying fake news. It sounds better, and he's classier than that. But the reality is they did not get into the debt, and the debt, as you say, is just like, oh my goodness. I mean, like, Warner Brothers has been laboring since 2020, since its birthday in 2022, with 55 billion in debt when it
that was
was
considered huge. This is almost double that.
Yeah. I mean, this is gigantic. So, and they want to carve 6 billion in synergies on top of the 3 billion they're already getting out of the Paramount Skydance stuff. So they depend on 9 billion in savings from things that, like Rich Greenfield at Lightshed said, it's kind of hard to get 9 billion in savings across all your stuff without starting to cut into things that actually make money. And that's probably true. So you're not going to, you have to cut more to get to the same spot because you got to make up for the money you lose. And then on top of that, as Warner Brothers Discovery found out, all the money they were expecting to come flowing in from their existing linear TV legacy assets did not come in at the same rate. They started out saying we're going to make 14 billion a year, and within a year and a half they were down to 10, which is a third, almost nearly a third. So
Well, looks like the Ellisons are going to keep coming at it. And there's lots of stories about how they're doing damage control with Trump, who was, reportedly mad about that 60-minute segment a few weeks back with.
yeah. He's getting old enough. He'll forget about it soon enough. It'll be fine. He'll be mad about something else.
Well, there's a report tonight, Sunday night, that they pulled a 60-minute segment on Venezuelans being shipped to El Salvadorian terrorist prisons. It was reported pulled last minute after it had already been promoted. Rubber's hitting the road, possibly here. A real major retrenchment.
Yeah, I don't know if that hurts him or not. I mean, it does suggest. I mean, the other thing Cardinale kept talking about was we have more regulatory certainty, right?
That's what they do.
Bellany didn't push him on this, and he totally should have, because the point is regulatory certainty means you think you're Don Trump's in your pocket, that you'll get the approvals without any Brendan Carr pushback or whatever. You can make him happy, and it'll all be copacetic and it'll be fine. That's really what that means. And Bellany didn't really push him on what does regulatory certainty mean, but that's what it means, right? Anyway. So speaking of big conservative media pushes, Sinclair bid $4 billion for the 90% plus ownership of EW Scripps, a smaller station group that it doesn't already possess. Did not get a welcome. I mean, it was like nearly as negative as what Warner read for Paramount Sky's pitch. They said, no, it's not enough, and we got other stuff to do. So,
well, officially, the word is that the bid, the $4 billion, undervalues Scripps, which that's a lot of money. An analyst was on record talking to Semaphore, saying that the ideological differences have a lot to do with it. Scripps is somewhat centrist, has a lot of ABC O&Os, and the family that owns it was kind of on the side of ABC and Kimmel a few months ago.
right.
So he claims that has sort of outside interests. I don't know. It always comes down to, the deal.
Well, $4 billion is a big chunk of what Sinclair's worth, actually. But it is interesting. How do you value this set of TV stations? $4 billion, just for comparison, is about what Disney paid 20 years ago for Lucasfilm and all the attendant Star Wars stuff that went on to make billions and billions and billions of dollars. Not millions, but billions. Let's just make sure we got our B's in place for Disney in the last couple of decades, despite Kathleen Kennedy's rather, I think, mediocre leadership on that brand. So, I mean, 4 billion, as you say, it's a fair amount of money, and are a bunch of stations really worth that? Going to be worth that? You've been putting some stuff in our column and elsewhere writing about
You have some insight
at least
into
an Indian summer. We'll call it an Indian summer for broadcast, right?
Well, the Scripps decision-making body is a large, unwieldy family interest, as you describe it.
Yeah.
And
I think it's 88 family members I think they're involved.
Right.
So like 88 of them. It's a crazy number.
So, I think deciphering a theme in a reason might be difficult in that kind of milieu.
Sure. I mean, yeah, it's like who's really in charge here, but what's a TV station worth these days? I mean, that's a really interesting question. Laura Martin threw a little bomb out there 3 months ago saying when the Kimmel stuff was happening, it's like, why does Disney even want to deal with the FCC? Just dump those licenses or cut off those affiliate deals, put it on ABC.com, put it on Hulu or Disney Plus, and let them go run reruns,
About
high school football games, or whatever.
It makes a shocking amount of sense when she.
It actually is disconcertingly sensible, right? I mean, it blows up not just 70 or 80 years of TV history, but 30 years before that of radio station history, which of course provided the structures that led to early TV and still remain in place ultimately. So it's really 100 years of broadcast history and relationships and all that. But you're right; it makes too much sense that would actually do that, right?
So what else we got, Dave?
Pluribus, because you a pluribine, you're a pluribian.
Yeah, Apple put out an announcement saying it was their most successful show ever.
But this is what I love. Apple, $4 trillion company, doesn't bother to say most successful show ever, but we're not going to tell you how we measure it.
Just believe us. Hear us now, believe us later. What was that, the old Dana Carvey? Yeah. So it's a good show. It's running down its first season. Christmas Eve, December 24th, will be the last episode of the first season. It has captured the zeitgeist. I thought that was a clever Roku promotion ad. They had Roku City in a little marquee on
which is one of the different little looks on the splash screen, right? You can choose different ones, but they had one tied to the city one.
Right. It says, "Hello, Carol." So
Carol being the name of Rhea Seehorn's character.
Correct. It's the lead character in a kind of post-apocalyptic, if you want to call it that, themed
something. It's not. It's sort of, yeah. We won't provide too many spoilers, but I'm not sure apocalypse is quite the term.
No, but it's
post change. We'll just say that.
It's a very good show. Vince Gilligan, who created Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul,
and was the showrunner on X-Files in its latter years and wrote some really influential episodes even before he became showrunner. I mean, he's got a track record as long as your arm of admirable stuff. So
yeah, it's an inspired show from an inspired man with a great actress, lead actress. And Apple is, it's slow developing, like everything with Apple, the erstwhile TV Plus. But when you kind of add their body of work, they're getting kind of a prestige comedy drama thing going. That if Netflix is going to subsume HBO, there's competition there. So,
right. Well, and I think that's kind of been out there. I mean, you're not going to really look for a lot of prestige stuff coming from Amazon, though its pockets are certainly going to be deep enough. Disney kind of does that with some of the stuff over on the Hulu side. They've got some films and stuff, but they tend to do big swings, big animated swings, which win awards. They tend to do big Oscar visual effects worthy, blockbusters. They don't do as much of the, and as we, I think, pointed out in the column a couple of weeks ago, they had a little show come out with Jamie Lee Curtis and some other folks in it. A little adult drama, and it just totally stiffed. It made like $2.5 million in its opening weekend, which is painful. And they spent like $35 million, so no one's getting fired over it. But no one's commissioning another adult drama to go into theaters for Disney anytime soon. That's my suspicion.
Kind of interesting. We talk, or at least I did. I fixated on kind of like cultural buzz versus commerce, and your good friend Jim Cameron seems to kind of walk in.
He actually is a former employer of my spouse.
Really?
Who was a teacher of his child. Long before I knew her, but like 15 years ago.
He makes some profitable films, and it was
interesting.
It was interesting that after making $5.2 billion for 20th Century Fox, now Disney, he had to, in his words, push back against the studio and say, "Wait, what part of the chance to make another $2
so they were kind of like,
what are you missing out on?" They didn't want to do it.
Geez, do we have to? It's like, it's only $2 billion. I mean, you guys will probably make it with, I don't know, your next adult drama.
It's anecdotal, but I saw the first one with my son. This was back in 2010. He was 8 years old, I think, at the time. Now he's a 20-something, and to this day he wears a Thanos T-shirt. He was wearing it today, and so he's all in on comic book stuff and fantasy action and all that stuff. He's still an avid movie consumer. And I asked him, "Do your friends, anybody, are they avid about Avatar? Are they going to go see it?" Looks kind of interesting, but 3 hours and 17 minutes. Like, what was it? Avengers Endgame? The end of the Thanos arc? That was 3 hours and 1
I
minute.
believe that is indeed the truth of that one, but I have to confess that they all kind of smeared together for me after a while, as they did. I think once that kind of wrapped, people were like, "Okay, I'm done with that stuff for a while."
Well, it's on tracking to do 345 million globally this
Yeah, that's
weekend.
what it's at right now, 345. I just checked Box Office Mojo a few minutes ago. It was at 345, which is pretty respectable, I
It's
have to
damn
say.
respectable. It's not track. It's
But
below 2002's version 2, but it's
but
still
but but but
it's still
but
on pace to do $1 billion at
yeah,
least.
yeah. Here's the deal. If you look at the box office and you look at what's going to compete with this thing over the next couple of months, there's nothing. There
Yeah.
is nothing going to be in theaters but Avatar, and its fans will show up again and again. Others who come in and say, "Screw, I'm not going to go the first weekend because that's just self abuse," or "I've got to take care of last minute Christmas shopping and I'm whatever." They will go in Christmas Day, the day after Christmas, and you still got your family there. Like, what the hell do you do? And, oh, let's go see Avatar. That'll be great. And they'll go do that. This will keep making money. And its only competition in theaters will be all the little awards films that are vying for Oscar attention in awards season in January and February.
And
So
the one
it
on
will
Disney
just
from
keep
Zootopia
making
2,
money.
which has already made our $1 billion itself.
Yeah. It'll just keep making money. I mean, Zootopia will be there, but Zootopia is probably Zootopia 2 is maxed out. It hit a billion. One of the things that's interesting this week, I talked with the relatively new CEO and the just hired chief commercial officer for a company called D-Box, and they've been around a long time, gone through a lot of stuff, but they do these motion actuators that make the rumble seats that move them. And it's really interesting stuff. And so, like, they work with each filmmaker as much as the filmmaker or studio wants to work with them, but they really do for these high end premium experiences. They have 60,000 different kinds of little moves that can be tied into the actuators to move the seat in one way or another, time to specific moments on screen to help make it a more compelling experience. It's like, okay, well, that's great on the number one screens. That makes, that's great. And those are the ones that are the big dollars and you pay more to have that experience and da 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 da. But their big play, the thing where they think they've got real growth, is not in the number one screen in a theater. It's in the number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screens, which are where a film goes after its first 2 or 3 weeks. It'll cycle out of that number one screen into something else, but you're gonna and it's not even the whole theater. They're not saying do the whole
Yeah,
theater
it's
number
like
2 or number
a
4,
football field away from the John. It's like if you
just the 3 most because all the assigned seats, which ones are the most popular seats? It's right in the sweet spot where you'd expect. So those are the 3. You wire those up for their actuators, and you can charge more for people who
yeah,
sit
I've
in
sat
those
in a
specific
D-box
seats.
seat. I've paid that premium. It's just because it was the only one that had a seat open, and it was kind of a little disconcerting. Hey, my seat just moved. I didn't know what I was getting in for.
Well, I suspect there may be others who are a little more informed consumers. I'll just throw that out there. I find it really interesting because all of a sudden it means that that in-theater experience at the highest possible level is got a more extended life because it's been this thing where IMAX and XD from Cinemark, et cetera, all those premium screens that charge extra, they'll be able to have an experience that goes on for weeks after the initial release so that there's reasons to keep the movie in theaters, which I thought was really interesting. Speaking of really good directors, by the way, I was fascinated in watching Saturday Night Live last night, the last one of the year. Yes, it was Bowen Yang's prize announcement this last week that this was going to be his last episode and he was leaving. He's pals with Ariana Grande, starred on the 2 Wicked movies with her, and he's really close with her. And she was the guest host and actually quite good, but she's a Disney kid. She knows how to act and do comedy and all that stuff, as well as having a ridiculously good voice for a person who weighs about 17 pounds. And so they were very sweet together. But he did this closing little sketch with her as an aging couple, and he's retiring from his job serving eggnog in the airline at the Delta Airport lounge. And he used to see all these really cool work with all these cool people, and it was very sweet. But in between things like that was a series of ads
Never did
from
a thing for
Netflix.
me. I've never understood there's a couple of recent SNL phenomena. Pete Davidson, who seemed like he was famous for being Pete Davidson, and Bowen Yang.
Now
I
he's famous for being
remember
19
sketches
years
of
old
Bowen
and
Yang.
hired on to Saturday Night Live. That's what he's famous.
I don't understand the appeal. Not that the show
You
is.
may not be his core demographic. I'll just throw that out.
That's not fair. I mean, there are other kind of multi-generational stars of color on Saturday Night Live that I've connected to, but him,
Davidson's a star of color.
that's not who I'm talking to. I was equally distant to him. I never understood the appeal. I never saw the talent. I mean, he's the guy who kicks comedians when they're down. I'm thinking of the Louis C.K. thing. But anyway, I digress.
No, Louis C.K. kicked
Yang,
himself on the way down.
it's an outsized cultural phenomenon. I want you to explain to me why you think he's so popular.
Bowen Yang, he's hilarious. He brought a really, he's got this impish thing. He's got some talent as a singer because he did some singing with Ariana Grande. He was pretty serviceable on that. But he did a bunch of characters that were pretty funny and over the top, like the iceberg that sank the Titanic, that are pretty funny and pretty funny stuff. If you don't get it, it's fine. You know, comedy's a very personal thing.
It's just not. It's a taste thing. I did see the iceberg.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. But I mean, he did stuff like that. That was very clever, quite a lot. But more importantly,
the finale is SNL. So what else rocked your world?
Well, I was going to say he's one of the very few that have left mid-season, end of year, but mid-season. Eddie Murphy, one of the handful of others that have ever done that. Now, that being said,
got kicked
the
in the
more
teeth later.
interesting thing to me was Netflix running a string of ads sprinkled through the whole telecast. Brief showcases of the directors of some of its Oscar awards contending films. So Catherine Bigelow, Guillermo del Toro, who's got his Frankenstein there. Bigelow's got House Full of Dynamite. Rian Johnson has his latest Knives Out. I mean, these are people that have won Oscars or have been nominated for multiple Oscars. And it was a pretty impressive list that they were doing. But I was like, so they're basically doing a 4-year consideration campaign that doesn't include writing a check to Jay Penske, which was like, wow, that's different. But it's also kind of marketing Netflix as a prestige destination to the broader audience. So I was curious about it. I don't know. Where does this ad run? Is it only in LA and New York where all the voters are? Maybe some San Francisco and Chicago?
It's not an Academy play. It's I agree. It's a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it was really interesting because usually they just like want to rifle in on the publications that are read by, a specific guild, or whatever. So I was fascinated by that. And then, of course, there was Tom Steyer, who is the billionaire hedge fund guy turned environmentalist, who's financed a lot of political stuff and is now running for governor because Gavin Newsom's termed out, and elections are 6 months away. Holy crap. And not even 6 months now because it's the first weekend in June, if I recall. The primary
elections are in June?
Yeah, I mean, that's where they traditionally were in California. It's different during, and I say this, they changed it during a presidential year so that California was not put at a disadvantage with the primary season so that its primary still mattered. So it was moved up to Super Tuesday, second Tuesday or third Tuesday in March. In the off-year elections, like next year, it's back to early June, first week in June. So you have the primary then, and then if you don't have somebody getting 50%, goes to November for a runoff. That being said, Steyer did, and this was kind of fun, an ad with cue cards, like in a scene in the Christmas show, Love Actually. He still gets his political stuff in, but he says, yes, this is just like the parodies of the Love Actually scene. And I just noted it's also like the great Bob Dylan cue card thing at the opening of D.A. Pennebaker's wonderful documentary from 1965 or whatever called Don't Look Back. Cue cards, homage to Love Actually, right on the doorstep of Christmas. It's nice to see a rich bastard with a sense of humor, as well as obviously aching ambition to be our next governor.
We're going to follow Gavin Newsom and kind of he's tapped into younger media consumers and doing some clever things. So I think maybe they're using this for media agency. I don't know. Did you see Knives Out?
Yeah, I thought it was quite good.
Yeah.
I think some people I know were less into it than some of the others. It's a little bit different feel. It's kind of a how done it, not a who done it. But, you know, it also deals with matters of faith. Josh O'Connor plays a priest in a complicated little parish, and his divisive boss apparently dies. And O'Connor deals with a lot of issues of faith and questioning his own stuff and his own troubled history. And Benoit Blanc, played by Daniel Craig, is, as usual,
Typically
over the
Benoit
top and
Blanc,
quite
yeah.
entertaining. What?
Yeah, I thought some of the ruminations on faith and
Yeah.
expression of it are really kind of eloquent and right on time. It was
Yeah.
really pleasantly surprised.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I
didn't want
mean,
to dwell on it,
tied
but I
to
just
what our present moment, it has some things to say kind of beyond just a little fun Agatha Christie-esque closed room, G.K. Chesterton-esque closed room kind of mystery. So,
and Netflix dropped a new Dave Chappelle comedy special.
yeah,
They
I
did
hadn't
that.
seen that yet. We're probably going to watch it soon.
I think they did it last year, or the year before. Maybe they did both years. It's this time of year, around New Year's.
It was a surprise drop. I think they're going to run his comedy special instead of that 60 Minutes thing on CBS because they're one with, Dave Chappelle.
So he lays off the trans community, takes punches at Charlie Kirk supporters and supporters of Israel, and he gets a major applause for the latter, which is a little bit. I didn't know what to make of that. I like that Netflix goes out. I think it's really smart. He doesn't go ever too far out on the edge, but he goes out enough to get a lot of discussion and a lot of heat. And it's a
He
smart play.
certainly tends to, yeah, he tends to stick on the message boards a lot longer than most hour-long comedy specials.
If
No
you get
matter,
if you combine it with Jake Paul facing his first real boxer, and credit the kid for going 6 rounds, and I don't. I think he was in it because he believed in it, and I never felt like he was in over his head until that bout. He got absolutely beaten up.
yeah, well, he was definitely in over his head. I mean, Anthony Joshua was a head taller than him, and Paul's not a small guy. I think he's like
No, he's
six.
not.
He's like 5'11", 6 feet tall, and pretty sturdy, obviously. But he's been fighting. I mean, like Mike Tyson, whom he fought and made a lot of money with. Tyson's only 5'9". Joshua is hulking. I mean, he is a gigantic man. And he just battered him up and down. I mean, it was like a bum in a back alley. And broke his jaw in 2 places, I think you wrote.
Yeah,
I always joke, though. Here's the thing. I always joke that no one should be surprised how much money he made like $92 million off of this. No one should be surprised that people are willing to pay to watch Jake Paul getting punched in the face. It's Jake and Logan Paul, two of the most obnoxious, very successful creators on YouTube. Oh, somebody's going to punch you in the face who actually knows what they're doing? We'll watch that. You bet.
You remember in the 70s, ABC would run commercials with all their on-air talent would get together and sing and dance, and it felt like as you entered the holidays or a major season, the place to be, the center of the party was the network. They had sort of like this warm glow of
Yeah,
gravity.
and you had those Christmas specials that would have like 20 people coming on, like variety specials that would come on and sing Christmas carols and do dumbass jokes and sit around a fire with a fake snow and trees and things, and all very heartwarming and all that going on.
But if
Right?
you were on social media today, specifically platforms like X, I mean, Netflix really dominated conversation. And I don't have like trending numbers for the Jake Paul fight and Chappelle, but it seemed like it was everywhere. And
Yeah.
they really are drawing attention and engagement to themselves that way.
Yeah. Well, and it is interesting that their live event plays continued this week. There will be NFL football games. Speaking of live events that attract a lot of eyeballs, and there will be games on Amazon and Christmas Day, 2 games on Netflix. So they anticipate a pretty big turnout, and they should.
I
Folks going to
wanted
watch.
to fit this in the column. I'll just be real fast with it. Watching the Seattle Seahawks play the Rams on Thursday
So
night
that game.
football, and then watching another overtime game, the Bears winning in overtime against the Packers on Saturday night. Got to tell you, the NFL, love them or hate them, has created a TV product that is unsurpassed. Those are dramatic sports events.
Yes, even my spouse, not a noted sports fan, watched a significant chunk of both of those and was rather transfixed. And, NYU trained film critic type, not noted for her involvement in organized team sports. That's quite an achievement,
And
I
she's
will
got
say.
major opinions on the college football playoff and their decision to include G5 non-power conference schools like Tulane, like James Madison, both of which got boat raced in the opening
Well,
round.
but James Madison scored 34 points on Oregon. I mean, here's the deal: it's if Notre Dame got in there and they won and they lost 20-10, no one would care, but no one would remember. I mean, it would just be another meaningless game. This actually lets everybody else have a shot, one shot. In this case, it was
But
two
there's
shots.
compelling reasons to do it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think all the, oh, he should have had like Notre Dame plus, I don't know, another SEC team, put Missouri in there. And I'm a Missouri guy, but it's all right. I liked having JMU there. It was pretty cool. And now their head coach is going to go be the UCLA head coach. And, the head coach of Tulane, who actually stayed for his team's game, is headed over to run the University of Florida. It's fine. They didn't win, but so what?
It's not. I mean, I heard the assumptions is that if they weren't included, there'd be antitrust suits against the college football playoff.
I think that's true. I think that's absolutely true.
Wouldn't it
And
be
they'd have a
better if
good
we had
case,
their
by the way.
own, their own division, their own bracket, and you included more G5 schools in that bracket and the best 12 teams, not conference winners necessarily, the best 12 teams picked by an informed committee, just as we do at March Madness. You might have a better outcome. I don't know. It just felt a little bit,
I think we still had a pretty good outcome. Like the two games that were teams that people were okay being in there were very good games. So, and now we've got 4 more really good games coming up next weekend, and we got 3 more after that. So it's fine. It's fine. I think lots of folks watched, and go watch a bowl game if you really want to watch meaningless games. I don't care. Whatever. I thought it was fine. I liked seeing JMU in there. I thought it was great. I think Tulane has been pretty good under Willie Fritz and then John Summerall and now whoever's going to be there next. They've been a very competitive team, but whatever. That's just me.
all right.
Anyway, we should probably wrap this puppy up because it is eggnogging time. I am David Bloom of Next TMT and this here podcast, Next TMT Talks. And Daniel Frankel, we are wrapping up quite the year that included trips to Amsterdam for me and Denver for both of us and other places, covering some of the things going on and lots of stuff happening, and perhaps the eventual sale of a very large studio, and the somewhat smaller studio has already been sold, and so much else going on. We thank you, all our beloved listeners, readers, watchers, for your engagement and attention. And please keep listening, watching, reading, sharing, liking, commenting. Let us know what you think, any ideas you have, any hot tips you want to send along. If you don't normally get this stuff, you can sign up for the newsletter at nexttmt.com and get it free. And we look forward to an expanded palette of stuff in the year 2026, which is right around the corner. And thank you so much. This is David Bloom and with Dan Frankel, and we are signing off for 2025. Thanks, everybody.